Starting to write your first novel can be a really intimidating process. You have to come up with the characters, a plot, an original idea. Where do you even start? Not to mention, it's 80,000 to 120,000 words. I mean, that's a big job, right? Today, I want to share with you my top 10 tips for beginner writers. It's the things that I wish I knew when I was starting out writing a novel, the things that make my life easier as a novelist. So I'm going to share them with you today. So why don't you stick around, hit subscribe, and let's get into it. So my first tip to you today is to take time to learn your craft. It's really important that you actually just spend some time learning how to write and how to write a novel specifically. So that means reading lots of novels in the genre that you're going to write in. It means learning about craft and learning about storytelling. So reading some books on the art of plotting or creating great characters. None of this time is wasted because it gives you the fundamentals for how to write a novel. The other thing I will tell you to do is why not take a class at your local writers center? So lots of writers centers offer courses, whether that's a one-off course or a year-long course in how to write a novel. And there you might meet like-minded people who are also trying to write their first book. So my second tip is to take your time. Writing a novel is a marathon, not a sprint. So you need to make sure you take your time to research your book. Take enough time that you need to plot your story, to look into the characters, to do a bit of planning, because that stuff pays off in this kind of long haul work. And it's really important to do. My third tip is to document your process. In a work that's as long as a novel, it's 80,000 to 120,000 words. And as smart as we all are, we can't keep all of that information in our brain the entire time. It's much easier if you get a notepad and dedicate that to this work. Put all your notes in there, your research, your inspiration clips, little fragments of writing, or perhaps an online notebook using Evernote or OneNote to take track of all the notes that you have for your book. It's really important you do this so that when you're a bit tired or when you're trying to figure out what to write next, you can refer back to that as a resource. My fourth tip is a really important one, and it's making the time and space to write. So we all have busy lives. Some of us have kids, some of us have families, pets that demand our attention. It's really important that you set aside time to write. For me, I have 2 dedicated days a week that I dedicate to writing. And if I'm working on a book project, I'll write from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. and I'll aim for about 1,500 to 2,000 words in those 2 sessions each week. During the week, at other times, I don't have time to write, but those times are sacred. It's really important that you block out even just a little window for yourself to do some writing. Now, if you have friends or family in your household, it's really important to get them on board with your writing hobby. It's important because they need to respect your time. Sometimes you might get constant interruptions. You need to let them know why writing a book is so important to you and just ask that they respect that time. The fifth tip is to get an accountability partner. It's important to have someone on your side, perhaps someone who's also writing a novel, to back you, but also keep you accountable for your writing. One of the ways it's really easy to slip in your first novel draft is to put it off or delay or procrastinate writing the book, and it'll never get done that way. So you really have to be accountable to yourself, but also being accountable to somebody else helps that accountability process. So check in with them once a week, say, how are you going? How many words have you written? What are you doing on your book this week? Tip 6, do not self-edit. I wish I knew this when I first started writing because I've written lots of first chapters but never finished those books because I would constantly self-edit the first chapter over and over again. So don't self-edit. Once you're writing, keep writing. It's really important to keep that momentum up. Leave the editing process to the end once you finish that first draft. So I know I said I write maybe 2,000 words a day when I'm writing, but I didn't start out that way. Writing is like a muscle, you need to exercise it. So when you're starting, pick something realistic. I picked 500 words. It's something that you can get done in an hour. And I used to write on the bus to and from my job, or I'd write in my lunch breaks. I'm not very good at using spreadsheets or Excel, but I do use it for a few things. And one of them is to keep track of my word count. So I have a little graph that goes up and up and up whenever I'm writing. So every day that I write, I put in the word count, the amount of words that I wrote. And it's really encouraging to me to see that little chart going up, 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 up. My eighth tip is to start with characters and then plot. So when I was studying writing, there was a strange conversation that went on quite a bit, which was, do you write character-driven stories or plot-driven stories? And oftentimes it was a division between literary or genre fiction stories. But it's a false dichotomy. You cannot have a good plot without a good character and vice versa. There isn't such a thing as character or plot-driven stories because good plots are always driven by interesting characters. The character will always inform the choices and the conflict in the story, which is why I say to start with a character and then start to plot on the basis of that character. And that will help you a lot in determining where the story will go. Tip number 9 is a bit of a hard one to take, but it's true. Accept that the first novel that you write probably won't get published. You know, I've written 4 novel manuscripts, and the first 2 are probably going to stay in a drawer for the rest of my life. They're not particularly good, but when I wrote them, I thought they were the best things ever. For me, it was so important to write them, though. I call them my apprenticeship. It's doing the training that you need to write a novel. And the thing is, you can't learn to write a novel without writing a novel. So accept that the first manuscript you write might not be the best thing ever, but it's really important to do it. My final tip is do not let the fear stop you. Okay, we can't be afraid. I know that you can be so afraid of getting rejected and think of the end goal when you're writing your novel. You think, oh, but I'm going to have to submit this to agents and editors and publishers, and what are they going to say? Push all that to one side because really when you're writing, it's just you and the page. Write the book you want to see in the world and don't let that fear stop you from ever putting pen to paper. The first novel is always the hardest one to write because you don't know if you can do it yet. I'm lucky that I've written a few manuscripts because now I know I can actually achieve that. I can write 80,000 words, but that first one is the hardest one to write. And I still remember doubting myself and thinking, I can't do it. I'm lucky I had some friends that told me that I could. So I believe in you. I really encourage you to write your first novel. I hope these tips have helped. If you have any questions at all, please hit me up in the comments below. Otherwise, you can find me on social media. Thanks so much for watching.